Welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Ann Trujillo. Here in Colorado and across the nation, the fight over gun laws and gun control is a loud one, and it's top of mind right now for Colorado's legislature and so many Coloradans. This year marks 20 years since the shooting at Columbine High School. It's also now been a year since 17 people were killed in Parkland, Florida, murdered by a young man many had long believed to be troubled. Well, since that day, 30 states have passed new gun legislation, often in Republican-controlled governments. Most tighten restrictions. A handful, like Wyoming and Idaho, actually loosened them. Well, in Colorado, what's known as the red flag bill would let law enforcement take guns away from people deemed at high risk of harming themselves or others. It failed last year over concerns that it violated constitutional rights. But as Jennifer Kowaleski shows us, it is back this year with more support than ever.
It is difficult. It never ends. It never goes away from you.
It's a tragedy that shook our state and rocked the Douglas County Sheriff's Office to its core when Deputy Zach Parrish was killed in the line of duty. New Year's Eve 2017.
We lost a great officer, a promising officer, a father, a son. We lost somebody who had the potential to make a huge difference in this world.
Rewind 6 years earlier, more heartbreak inside this Aurora theater when a gunman killed 12 innocent people. Fast forward to now.
So important for the people of the state of Colorado.
Douglas County Sheriff Tony Spurlock.
I mean, I'm wearing Alex's jacket right now.
Along with freshman Representative Tom Sullivan, who lost his son in the theater shooting, are both back at the Capitol. They say fighting to avert further heartbreak in Colorado.
So I'm not doing this for Alex and my family. I'm doing it for yours.
Democrat lawmakers are bringing back the controversial red flag bill. Let's begin this 360 with what that means. It would give family or law enforcement the ability to raise a red flag and temporarily take away guns from someone in mental health crisis. Atul Sheriff Spurlock, a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, believes could have saved his deputy's life.
Sheriff's Office!
They knew the man who shot Parrish was in crisis and had guns, but couldn't do anything about it.
And I believe today that that he would not have had that firepower, he would not have had that ability to take the life of Zach Parrish and wound 4 other officers.
The bill is named in honor of Parrish. Similar legislation failed last session in the Republican-controlled Senate.
We need to break the glass. We can't keep doing the same things over and over again when they're failing.
For Spurlock, this is about saving lives.
If we were going to say you take your guns away and you never ever get them, then I'd say I can't stand for that. But that's not what this bill says.
And this is a simple thing to do.
For Sullivan, this is personal and part of why he became a state lawmaker.
Until this jacket falls off of me, I'm working every day to do this.
I didn't think that last year's bill could get any worse, but apparently they've made it even worse.
Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers are screaming over changes to this year's bill.
I think it's just bad policy.
House Minority Leader Patrick Neville is crying foul over what he calls a lack of due process and believes the bill will add to the stigma around mental health.
It requires you to prove your innocence. So first off, there's no due process in the first initial stages because you don't even get a chance to defend yourself.
This year's red flag bill doubles the amount of time a judge would have to consider appeals and gives them a year to decide whether to return someone's guns. The biggest change lies with the burden of proof, which is now on the person in crisis, a change the bill's sponsor says came from stakeholders, which brings us back to Spurlock.
The respondent will go to get mental health care. That expert, that person, would be the one that would come in their defense.
Absolutely, I have some concerns.
Republican Senator John Cook is also opposed to the bill. He calls it an overreach and points to the recalls that happened the last time Dems passed major gun legislation.
There were 2 senators that were recalled and one resigned before she could be recalled. So they should be concerned about it as well because this is, we're talking about a person's Second Amendment right, a constitutional right.
At the same time, a recent poll showed a red flag bill had 60% support among Republican voters. So no matter which side of the argument you side with the balance of power shifting to the Democrats in both the State House and Senate, many say this year will be the year we could see gun legislation pass at the Capitol. Jennifer Kowaleski, Denver 7.
Well, keeping an eye on that bill and others is our good friend Maryanne Goodland, the chief legislative reporter for ColoradoPolitics.com. Did we mention this was a hot topic at the state legislature and for Coloradans? So we've seen this red flag or a version of it before. What are your thoughts on where it's headed?
I think the Democrats, because they have control in the House and Senate, and the governor has indicated that he does support the bill, that the chances of this thing getting through are pretty good, but there is one person that has some control over this who has not exactly been full-throated, shall we say, in his support, and that's the Senate President Leroy Garcia. And I think he's going to be a really interesting person to watch on this. He has been a reliable vote every year to repeal the 2013 law that led to the recall of those 2 state senators. This was over ammunition magazine limits. Right. And he has voted in favor of that every year. And yesterday he issued a statement after the press conference that said this is a very difficult conversation for people to have, and we're going to be working on crafting a good policy. Never even mentioned the name of the bill or what's in the bill at all.
So what is the status? When do you think we might get this resolved?
It's going to be a while. The bill has not yet been scheduled for a hearing, but I'm told it will take place relatively quickly. I would assume that's going to be within the next maybe 2 weeks or so. I don't have any doubts that the bill will get out of the House. What happens in the Senate will be a very big question mark.
We will all be watching. All right, a couple of other big bills that I think will affect our lives. The cell phone bill, this will determine whether we can hold it in our hands while we're driving?
Correct. This is a bill by Senator Lois Court, who has been working on this issue for a number of years now. And this measure says you can't be driving and holding your cell phone. If you want to have a cell phone in your car, it should be in some sort of handheld device. If you want to take a moment to turn a call off or something like that, that's okay. But when you're driving, hands off the cell phone. And this bill got kind of got stuck over what even some Democrats thought were penalties that were way too high. So it came out of committee on Thursday with I believe it's a $50 penalty for the first offense, $150 for the second, and $300 for the third offense or any subsequent offenses, and between 2 and 4 points on the license. The original version was 3 times that.
So what's the fight over this? Is it really more about the penalty or the action?
It appears it just was over the penalty, because once the bill was amended in the committee on Thursday, it passed unanimously. It's a people consider it to be a public safety issue, and they really and truly want people to stop doing this.
Yeah. All right. Sex ed, also, who knew? A hot topic at the state legislature.
That was a bill that was heard in a hearing about 2 weeks ago. We had more than 400 people who signed up to testify on it, although in the end I think it was probably about half that, perhaps. On Friday, the House debated this thing for hours. Republicans said that this was an education bill, and why wasn't it heard by the Education Committee, which is what normally deals with public education curriculum and standards. So, and then they also pointed out that this bill was not supported, at least in the committee testimony, by some of the groups that you'd expect to be there. The Teachers Association, the State Association of School Boards and school executives. There were some students who testified in favor of it, and there was even a petition from 200 students at Durango High School in support of it. But by and large, that wasn't who showed up to testify on this bill.
Interesting. All right, we'll keep watch on that one as well. Also, Colorado's electoral votes and how those are decided. That's also been up for discussion.
That's the National Popular Vote Bill. That came out of committee on a House committee on a party line vote this week. And it now heads to the House floor probably sometime in the next week for debate. This is the bill that says whoever wins the popular vote wins the Electoral College votes. And we are about 11 states, I think, away from having enough to actually trigger this.
Right. We need an assortment of states to be able to join us with this.
What you need is enough states that have the 270 Electoral College votes.
Right.
And that actually could happen this year.
Okay, with about 30 seconds left, what odd bills are you watching before the legislature right now?
I don't know if I'd call them odd, but we did have a bill this week on that passed out of the a Senate committee allowing kids to have lemonade stands.
Ah, yes.
Yay.
That's moving on.
Yeah, that one's moving on. That deals with minors, that they can have their businesses without seeking a business permit from their local government jurisdictions. We're shortly going to have a bill on the number of straws that you can have in a restaurant. That bill is out, but it's coming up for its first hearing here in the next week.
Okay, well, we appreciate you watching all of these bills, odd or not, before the state legislature. Thank you, Maryanne Goodland.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Be right back.